My name is internationally award-winning leadership and communication coach, and I am here live every Tuesday morning at around about 11 a.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time. So, hi, welcome to Leadershipisation. If this is your first time, join in. If you've got a comment, pop it in there. I'm happy to answer your questions. And if you're watching this on replay, that's wonderful as well. Pop your questions in there and I'll make sure that I get back to you with them. Over the last 4 weeks in particular, we've had some really awesome guests. We've had Anurag Sahai, we've had Kevin Raymond, we've had Carmel Crouch, and last week we had my awesome friend Kevin Khan. And each of them have given us some really interesting insights into leadership. And so, what I thought I'd do today is to review those and almost revisit what the common threads are there, because it's all about that leadership and that communication. So what I figure I'm going to do is to talk through them or revisit the key points for each person one at a time. And you'll notice that I'm looking down, and that's because I've got some notes here just as a reminder of the gold that they actually dropped for us. So just bear with me as I do that. Um, Anurag, he reminded us that leadership is actually very different from managing, and that a lot of it was about a mindset, because all of us actually have the capacity to be leaders in our own lives 100% of the time. And I really love that, because I often talk to my clients about how you can actively lead from any chair. Don't have to have the title of a leader or a manager to be leading in your team. And it really comes down to the ability to convince others to be able to follow you. I also liked and really resonated with Anurag's reminder to us all to be an observer, to really notice what you'll notice is going on with others in your lives, with your team. And the skill set that he felt it was really important for aspiring leaders to develop was an understanding of where integrity sits for you, what your own values are, and what integrity means to you, so that you can learn how to push back from that. But also, it was about stepping back, developing that leader mindset, understanding what it was that, or what it is that's expected of you, so that you can actually step into the role. So he talked to us a lot about really owning that role of being a leader. Doesn't mean that you're the loudest person in the room, doesn't mean that you've got the most energy, but you're certainly able to bring people with you on the journey. So that was awesome. I really enjoyed that conversation with Anurag. Then we spoke to Kevin Raymond. Kevin's based in Montreal in Canada, and he's done a lot of work in the government sector. Was previously an advisor to a number of government ministers, and now is working with corporations. So Kevin talked a lot about vision and strategy, and in order to be a good leader, you need to understand what that vision and what that strategy is, so that you can develop those strong communication skills that are essential for good leadership. And I loved it because Kevin reminded us that listening is a key component of communication. It's not just what you're saying that is important. It's what you're hearing and how you're responding to what you're hearing. He touched a little on emotional intelligence, which is so important, and that's basically being aware of what's going on with the other people in your team, so that it's not all about you, just about you all the time. The sorts of skills that he thought were important for aspiring leaders to develop was the skill of being adaptable. I think what we talked about was the fact that change is a constant. So we talk about managing change all the time. It's actually much more about managing the way that we respond to change so that we're not blocking it. We're not seeing it as an obstacle. We're seeing it as an opportunity. We're seeing it in a positive way so that we're then able to bring our team with us on that journey. So it was that adaptability, that ability to pivot, to change the approach that you're taking to things. He also talked about how it's useful to learn to be strategic. So, the higher up in leadership roles you're going, the more likely it is that you're going to need to have an understanding of things from a strategic perspective or rather than from an operational perspective. So, it's useful for you to get ahead of that by being, learning what is the strategic direction of the organization or the team that you're working for, and starting to use that language, talking about what might be possible, what's happening into the future. The sorts of things that Kevin felt that it wasn't useful for us to be doing as leaders, the first one of those was micromanaging. Let it go. Demonstrate to your team that you trust them by standing back. Let them make and learn from the mistakes that are likely to happen. Because, and this is, I remember saying this to Kevin during our conversation, every time you solve a problem for your team, you actually disempower them. Every time you take over and resist allowing them to learn from the errors and the challenges that they face, you actually disempower them. And for many leaders, this is potentially a critical point for them because we think that we're doing the right thing. I'll just solve the problem and then we can get on with it quicker. However, in the short, medium, and long term, what there is a danger that you're doing is increasing your team's reliance on you as the decision maker. And what that does for you in your leadership role is it results in you, like there's a level of frustration. Why can't they do these things for themselves? They can't because potentially you're not actually trusting them enough and encouraging them enough to allow them to do it. So really hard. It's a hard one for lots of people, particularly if you've come out of the team. You were already in that team. You come out of that team. We want you to move up. You're not able to let go of micromanaging. So check that one. The other things Kevin told us was that it's also about setting those boundaries. Set those boundaries about the way that people are communicating to each other, the processes that you use, how often it's face to face, the kind of language and behaviors that sit around that communication will often set the tone and impact the culture in your team. So that's really important. And he also talked about the value of integrity. Understand where your boundaries are around integrity. I think we often talk here about would it pass the pub test? If you went to ask your neighbours about it, whatever's happening, what would they think? Or what's this going to look like if it goes on the front page of the newspaper? So understand where your integrity boundaries are. I really enjoyed talking with Carmel Crouch. She's a leader of many years standing, and is also chair of the board as well as her own organisation Steps that she leads. She's chair of the board of Jobs Australia, which is a national peak body for employment service providers. And Carmel really focused down on the importance of building strong relationships at all levels of the organisation, not just with your leadership team, but at all levels, um, because they will stand you in good stead. She drilled down too a lot around, as a leader, feel comfortable to not knowing everything, to not always being the expert, because then what you can do is bring around you that awesome team who've got the skills that you haven't got. This is a little about learning what are your weaknesses, acknowledging those weaknesses, and bringing the people around you who are going to support you in the work that you're doing. And that led us on to the reminder that as a leader, you need to put yourself in a space and a mindset where you're happy to be challenged, not because people are undermining you, but because potentially they need a better understanding of the initiative that you're trying to implement, or the idea that you're bringing to the table. She reminded us to talk less and listen more, and to work with your people. Your people work with you. Your team works with you. They don't work for you. And that way, that quality of those relationships helps to build that strong culture. And so when things get tough, it's easier for you to be leading your team through whatever the challenges are. And the thing that came out of it, and I got a lot of comments from people afterwards, in my conversation with Carmel, I said to her, yeah, I love that. If you're the smartest person in the room, you need to be thinking about finding another room, because maybe you're not as challenged in your leadership role as you think you might be. Finally, we had a chat with Kevin Khan. Kevin is based in Singapore, and he's on boards, on a number of international boards. He's also worked for a lot of multinational companies. So he's worked across a lot of different cultures as well, which is awesome. And what Kevin reminded us about is that it's perfectly okay not to be good at everything. No one expects you to be good at everything. And if what you can do is acknowledge, and this kind of fed from what Carmel had said the week before, if what you can do is acknowledge, these are the things I'm really good at and I enjoy, these are the things I don't enjoy. And so I don't spend as much time fine tuning my skills there. And these are where my skills are lower. You can then bring around you a team that will support the goal of what it is that you're trying to achieve. No one expects you to be good at everything or to actually know everything. So he talked about the importance of being reliable, which was really, do what you say you're going to do. Do what you say you're going to do. The skills that he felt that it was important for us to develop are things like this: be curious, curiosity, and what goes hand in hand. He did not separate these. What goes hand in hand with curiosity is active listening. So it's not just about asking the awesome questions and then blowing off the answer. It's about actively engaging in the listening. So you get to know what your team are thinking, get to know what's going on for your team, what's going on in your organization, your business, your life, your relationship, whatever it might be. The second thing that he felt was really important as a leader is, often in business, there's a huge focus on what is the customer experience. What are we doing for our customers? And we devote a lot of time and energy into making sure that that customer experience is top notch. because it's tough out there. We want to make sure that we've got these people on board. We want to make sure that every customer who comes our way is on board and that we can keep them on board. And we do that through our customer experience. And what Kevin encouraged us to do was to flip that over and make sure that our team are having an awesome experience working with us, that they're enjoying it, that they have the chance to give feedback, that they're acknowledged when they do something awesome, that they feel valued and important in the whole process. And I love that. I hadn't thought of it that way, but that's exactly when you turn it around, that's exactly what it needs to be. What do we need to be less of? Kevin was really clear, no argument at all from him. Toxic behavior, lose it. None of this toxic behavior. Yelling isn't appropriate. Bad language isn't appropriate. And one of the reasons, and when in our conversation, there were two things that we talked about. One is that following on from this toxic behavior, authenticity, being authentic doesn't mean you can behave however you like and use that as an excuse. It's not okay just to be saying, oh, well, I was behaving authentically. You guys need to put up with that. That seriously isn't okay. But also, what we talked about was that the reason that many employees are unhappy in their workplace or that they leave and go somewhere else is because of their managers or their leaders. And often it's because their manager or their leader steals their idea or steals, the takes the limelight from something that should have been given to the staff member or the team member who did the bulk of the work. So that's really something for you to remember. They're two awesome examples of toxic behaviour. Kevin also talked a whole lot because I asked him about the opportunities he'd had in his career to be able to to take on leadership roles, and what he identified was that, well, in some cases he put his hand up and he was saying, hey, I know I can be doing more here. In other situations, it was others in leadership roles who recognized his potential, and because he'd developed those strong relationships with them, they would say, hey, let's have you move forward to do this. What about considering these things here? And so often he might not have felt that he was ready, but because he knew he had the support of others, he was able to step into the role, and they continued to mentor him when he was in each of those roles. So that's kind of a really quick summary of those four awesome leaders that we had come talk to us or come talk with me about their view of leadership and the sorts of skill sets that they thought were essential for aspiring leaders to develop, to be more of, and certainly those that they thought we should be less of. And so this kind of begs the question, we're coming to the end of 2023. Where are you right now in your leadership journey? Where are you right now in your communication journey? And the question that follows on from that is, what are you doing right now to make 2024 the way you want it to be? I've got some spaces coming up, cleared some spaces in my group coaching program. It's a very small group coaching program, never any more than 10 people. So it's a really deep and intimate experience. It's all about leadership, communication, and mental fitness. So we identify where you are right now, where you'd like to be, and that gives us a gap to coach and train into. And then we get a chance to practice these things and reevaluate them and determine what we might need to change so that things best suit us, our style, and the circumstances and situations that we find ourselves in. Reach out if I can help by giving you some more information about that. I've got two or three spots in that, and I'm happy to have a conversation with you about it. In the meantime, next week I'll be here, same time, and I'm hoping to have another surprise guest, someone who's a bit of an adventurer. I'm hoping that she'll be available next week for us. If you have any questions and you're watching this on replay, pop them underneath and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Thank you. I enjoy being here, just running these leadershipization sessions and just having this conversation with you. Enjoy your week. See you next week.